This episode is brought to you by the Command Presence Leadership Institute. Find out more by visiting commandpresence.net.
Welcome to the Faces of Leadership with Michael Warren. Be the leader you wish that you had.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Faces of Leadership podcast, where we believe that leadership is about two things. It's about people and it's about actions. We talk with leaders from across society who are stepping up to do what they can, where they are with what they have. The question, though, is what can we learn from them? What can we learn from each other as we strive to be the leader we wish we had? Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Warren, and I'm your host. Thank you for being with us today. I always say this, that I'm excited about our episode. I'm excited about our guest. I think you're going to find today's episode to be very interesting. And just a little teaser here, folks, leadership is a journey. Leadership is a journey, and all journeys have a beginning. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Let me go ahead and introduce our guest, and then we'll bring him on so he can continue the conversation. Our guest today is the co-founder of Under Pressure. I almost started singing the song right there. Power Washing Services, LLC. He is a Christian husband to an amazing wife, and he's the father to a beautiful daughter and a handsome son, both of whom take after their mother. He has a diverse background, including years in retail management, carpentry, cabinet making, building custom furniture for private jets at Gulfstream Aerospace, and even had a brief experience as a Brunswick police officer. Under Pressure was founded in March of 2020 when our guest's wife left her teaching career after the birth of their son. Folks, 2020 seems like yesterday, and it also seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? COVID had just begun, and our guest, the family made the decision that she should retire in order to keep the young family safe. And I appreciate people who are willing to step up and live by their principles. As a result of the pandemic, the family, it wasn't all roses, right? The family lost all overtime pay, which had been sustaining them. So this is when they found themselves. And I loved how they worded this in the intro here. They found themselves presented with the opportunity to find new means of income. And just a free part of the podcast here, folks. Mindset's everything. Perspective is incredibly important. So after some research, which is right up my alley, they settled on the idea of pressure washing. The family kayaks were sold to raise the capital that was needed to buy the very first pressure washer. Again, priorities. Still working full-time at Gulfstream, our guest spent every afternoon and weekend growing the business. Through continuing education and the determination to never stop improving the business, our guest and his wife discovered soft washing, the alternative to pressure washing. This new technique uses biodegradable chemicals and low pressure to safely clean any surface. Now, 4 years later, they are Brunswick's only licensed and certified soft washing company. They received extensive hands-on and online training to provide their clients with the best results and experience in the industry. They are now the highest rated company on Google with over 250 five-star reviews. Folks, you won't find that many five-star reviews on the podcast yet. Please get to work on that for me, okay? What this journey made our guest realize, folks, is that entrepreneurship and leadership are his true passions. His desire is to be a leadership development company that just so happens to do pressure washing. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful way of putting it. He wants to help other small business owners grow personally and professionally, empowering them to invest in the people and places his community has to offer. Please welcome to the podcast, Kelton Faught. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you, Mike. I love the introduction. I really appreciate all the kind words and sentiment through it, too.
Dude, I appreciate people. When I first read the introduction, I'm like, I can feel this dude's passion, and he's not even talking. It's just me reading what was written. And passion makes a difference, doesn't it?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes people mistake what they do with their passion, too. So it's always an interesting take to see, what creates passion.
Ooh. I like what you just said there. Creates passion, because let's go ahead and start down this rabbit hole. All right. Oftentimes in society today, people are encouraged to follow their passion, but you found your passion while providing for your family. Oftentimes, passion is found in the midst of hard work. And
Right.
oftentimes, if not all the time, passion results in hard work because you still were working a full-time job when you started down this pathway, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I was working full time. Started doing this on the nights and weekends. And interesting enough, when I started pressure washing, the first day that I did it, I just had this epiphany that I absolutely hated pressure washing, and I would never see it through to be a job or a business that I would want to start.
Well, it's funny you should say that, man. There's a couple tasks that I've done that I am not passionate about. And it's probably because I'm not good at it. One of them happens to be pressure washing, and the other one happens to be sanding hardwood floors. And it's probably because I jack up pieces of wood in both of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then how do you go from saying, man, this is something I got no desire to do?
So, like it said in the intro, so we sold the family kayaks, and I bought the pressure washer. And I started working on the house because one of my favorite things that Jim Rohn has mentioned is that he found something that was easy to do, and he worked hard at it. So for me, spending the afternoons and the weekends, being the time that I had available now that all of my overtime was gone, finding something that I could do, in pressure washing, I'd known people before in the past that did it. I'd never touched a pressure washer before that day, but I just decided, maybe that's something that I could do. That seems simple enough. We can sell the kayaks, go get a pressure washer and just try it out and see how that's going to work out. And 3 hours in to washing my house, I decided it was for the birds and I would never pick it up again.
What's going on in my head right now is I'm imagining you with the power washer, and it's like the fireman when the hose starts to get away from it.
Yeah, it's just spraying everywhere.
That's not how it's supposed to work.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly how it went. My neighbor let me borrow one of his long extension poles, and I'd squeeze the trigger, and the pressure would blow it back, and I'd let go, and it'd smack the house, and nightmare, absolute nightmare. But I had it in me that there had to be an easier way, because you don't know what you don't know. I got on YouTube, found some videos of guys pressure washing, and they were using this term soft washing. I'd never heard it before, but I watched the video of this guy who used a backpack sprayer and some bleach and washed a house in like 30 minutes. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way it's that easy. I've been out here for 3 hours killing myself.
And you can see the streaks through the side.
Everywhere, yeah. So I went and I bought some bleach and I bought a little pump sprayer and I finished the rest of my house in like 15 minutes. And I was like, I could do that. Yeah, I think this is the direction I need to go with this. So let me dig in, let me do some research, let me do some homework. Let's hop on YouTube, let's hop on Facebook. Let's figure out how this works and see if I can actually do something with this. And that was kind of how that dynamic changed to, this is something that I'm never gonna try to pursue, to this could actually work.
If I'm being completely honest with you, your previous career, working in carpentry, that's one of those things that I've tried to do before, and I'm just not very good at. I probably should have paid a little bit better attention in geometry because the angles always get me. But it's one of those things, and I think it's most things in life, most skills in life, they're not hacks. They're just the correct way of doing things. That if you're able to find those things, then you're not only going to find that it's easier, it's still hard work. But it's easier to be successful. Would that be a proper way of saying it?
Yeah, 100%. I think for most things, it's if you could find the proper direction, then everything else will kind of follow suit. So it's like once I've found the direction to take it, then all of my focus and energy can go into all of the research and work that I needed to do to start creating something that, could provide for my family long term.
Bear with me here because I believe in the power of words. Okay. So what you were doing was looking for clarity on where to focus. And once you found the clarity, and you can now focus on it, that's when you move forward. Because if we move forward when things aren't clear or we're not focused on that area, that's when we often stumble and we often have mishaps and everything. And I'm not saying everything went perfectly for you, but they certainly went according to a plan.
More or less, trying to search for clarity for something that I could do that could provide for my family led me to the initial idea of pressure washing, and the mishap that came from that led me to, is there a better way? And that's what drove me to finding soft washing and discovering that, which sparked the idea and the research to continue in that pathway.
It has been my experience that a lot of people give up when there is a failure. But failure in this case is what puts you on the right path. It says, hey, no, this isn't the way to go, but there's an alternative over here. If that first power washing had gone well, you might still be trying to do it that way.
Right.
It's recognizing that we're never going to have a smooth path. It's what's the thing, musicians always say they hate when people say that you're an overnight success. And so they say, I'm an overnight success after 10 years because I'm playing all the dive bars and everything. And sometimes that overnight success, quote unquote, leaves out all the trips and falls along the way. Right.
Yeah. That's a lot of people get into the habit of saying, oh, well, you're so lucky. And I love the adage, I am lucky. And it seems the harder I work, the luckier I get.
It's amazing how they kind of go hand in hand. It's almost like they're dating or something, isn't it?
Yep.
So you start down. So we've got the business side of things. You're researching and figuring out how to run this business, how to do it well, how to do it efficiently. You're not a lazy guy. It's not that you're scared of hard work. You were just trying to look at a way to be efficient so that you could provide better for your family, right?
Right.
Somehow, some way in this journey, it somehow pressure washing kind of took a back seat. How did that happen?
So interestingly enough, this whole journey started with a YouTube video that somebody had sent me at work when I was building the airplanes. They sent me this video by Les Brown called "You've Got to Be Hungry." And that video just resonated with me so much, talking about how, we're responsible for the results in our lives and what we produce, and just you've got to be hungry, you've got to go after it. And what I realized from that video is that I've always been a really hard worker, and I've always been good at solving problems, but I've always been focusing on solving other people's problems instead of my own. And now, fast forward, here we are in COVID, and all of my problems have landed on my doorstep. That we've lost our income, my wife's income, we've lost my income. We just bought a house the year before, just bought a vehicle the year before. We've got a 3-year-old, a new baby boy, and my world is just screaming at me that I need to find a way to provide. So that ended up turning into this, how do I solve my own problems? We're dealing with a serious financial crisis now that could cause us to foreclose and lose everything. So I pursued the pressure washing, and that ended up being this huge thing that started to provide for us. But it was very much so me listening to that going, you know what? I've always been good at solving other people's problems. How do I solve my own,
I love that, because it's funny that you said you got to be hungry. One of the things that, with Command Presence is that we look for people that are hungry, humble, and smart. Mm-hmm. And hungry is that desire for personal growth, because personal growth adds to business growth. It has positive impact. Humble, it just means that, hey, I don't have all the answers. And it sounded like you were right there. I don't know what the answer is, but I've been able to find answers for other people. And now I'm going to rechannel that energy, that focus onto providing for my family. And the smart piece isn't necessarily intellectual smartness. It's about being people smart and about recognizing this. So when you look at that right there, did you figure out that, man, I am a hungry guy and that I can rechannel? I can rechannel that focus, that energy into working for me. And you know what? I take that back, because you weren't working for you. You were working for your family.
Right.
And that changes it too, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, at that same time, that kicked off that personal growth journey. So I started really diving in and listening to people like Jim Rohn and Les Brown and Zig Ziglar, Earl Nightingale, a lot of these old greats. And then that led me to listening to Simon Sinek, who we know is a big advocate for leadership. And that really just started to form my philosophy around the purpose. Simon Sinek's Start With Why. Mm-hmm. Absolutely love the concept, love the book. Trying to take that idea of finding my purpose, and that purpose being my family, and just finding ways to provide for them is what kind of drove me into that. And then as it started to grow, I realized that here I am, just somebody that's got a pressure washer that's doesn't have, a clue about growing a business, doesn't have a clue about what I'm doing, learning more and more about the technical side, but realizing that, I have a real opportunity here to turn this into a business and take the things that I've been learning on my personal growth journey and teach others kind of as I'm going through it. So originally my purpose was to serve my family. And then as the business grew, my purpose expanded to, hey, there have been trials and tribulations that I've learned through this journey growing a business that others in my area that I've spoken with, are struggling with too. So then my purpose grew to providing for my family, but then also helping some of these other small businesses to say, hey, I've been there. That's really hard. I understand what you're going through. Here's a tool. Here's a resource. Here's something that I've learned. Here's where I've messed up. Here's something you should probably look out for. And if you fall, I'm going to be right here to kind of help you get back up. And we're just going to keep moving this thing forward. So my purpose started to be somebody who could create a community of people that I was supporting just with knowledge, education, and resources. And then the business grew again. And now I have employees that, are under my charge. And I love what Simon Sinek says, that, the real job of a leader is not to be in charge, but to care for the people in our charge. So now I get to come full circle and say, wow, just how much I've grown just over the last few years, and how much my purpose has grown, and how now I get to just continue to pour into more and more people with what I'm doing.
Would you agree with me? Because what I have found in my journey is that leadership is applicable across many domains, but is specifically applicable across being in business, but also about being with your family. Because it's that same caring type attitude, that same caring outlook on things. I'm not my wife's boss, but I want to care for her. I want to provide for her. With my kids, I want to care for them. I want to prevent them from making those same mistakes that I had. And it sounds like that you were doing that at home, but you're also doing it with people that you worked with and worked in the same community with.
Right. No, I agree 100%. I love Jim Rohn. He's got a quote that says, the greatest gift that you can give to somebody else is your own personal development. If you could look at somebody and say, if I could become 10 times wiser, 10 times smarter, 10 times stronger, what could that do for our relationship? What could that do for our friendship and for our community and for our business and everything? So that was a big part of me looking into all of a sudden getting involved in self-education. So, how do I get stronger, better, smarter, wiser, which drove me into, a lot of reading. Love listening to Audible books while I'm out there washing. I just try to take advantage of all the time that I have. So listening to a bunch of books and seeing if I can't improve my communication skills, my leadership skills, the relationship that I have with my wife and my kids, and just finding all of these tools that I can use to just continue to grow. And that led me to one of the things that I've sent for you guys is the Ziglar Wheel of Life. Such an amazing tool and resource that you can use for your personal growth journey. And it's definitely helped to guide my own personal growth through it.
This is meant as a compliment. So take it as a compliment. You and I met when Command Presence was doing a Faces of Leadership event, community event down in Brunswick back in August. And you came up to talk to me. and you start talking to me about the Ziegler wheel. You did it with the same enthusiasm and love, like you were showing me a picture of your kid. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy, he and I are peeps. We think the same way, because that's where the passion shows through. And
Right.
so we're going to come back to the Ziegler wheel in just a second, but I want to talk about Simon for a second, because Simon talks about, even if you're a for-profit company, your why can't be to make money.
Right.
Making money is a byproduct of doing your why well. And it's just funny how you explain, man, I focused on being better, so I'm better for my family and for the business. And as a result, the business grew. And then I expanded who I'm trying to help, and my business grew too. It was a byproduct of doing the why well. That had to be incredibly eye-opening for you, because it sounds good, when Simon's up there talking, because he's got the cool accent and everything. It sounds good when he's talking, right? But to actually see it in practice, that had to just be like, son of a gun, it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we just had the amazing opportunity yesterday to present for, the Lucas Forum for Entrepreneurships. The whole time we were up there, I brought that up as one of the main things is, people ask me all the time, wow, you must really love pressure washing. You must really be passionate about it. And, I have to clarify, that's the misconception. You don't have to necessarily be passionate about the products or service that you offer, but be passionate about the purpose behind what you're doing. My passion is entrepreneurship. My passion is leadership. My passion is personal growth and development. Pressure washing is the avenue that I get to use to present that to my team and my family and our clients and our community.
It's a platform that you get to use to talk about leadership. And let's be honest, to provide for your family. You know what I'm saying? It's what we try to look at these things separately, but they're interdependent on each other.
100%. Yeah.
All right. But by the way, I've just got to throw this out there, man, for our listeners, just in case you were wondering what Plan B was. Okay. Well, Plan B was when he was doing that first power washing, his wife was recording it. And so we were banking on a viral YouTube video to provide for the family if it didn't quite work out, right? That's right. Didn't have to go that way, because it wasn't pretty. Just saying. So tell me about the Ziegler wheel. Why was it so impactful on you?
So personal growth, if there's anybody that's really kind of kicked off on that journey, you're going to spend a lot of time being introspective and asking yourself these questions of, well, how do I get better? I want to be better, but where do I start? And I don't really know where to go. I mean, you'll hear it, and it really is. It's confusing. It seems so vague and mystical that you've got to develop yourself. You got to get better. You got to get stronger. And what I love about the Wheel of Life, when I found it, was that it breaks down your life into about 7 different categories. Those categories are going to be your physical, financial, mental, family, spiritual, personal, and career. And what's amazing about it is you get to do a self-assessment on it. Once you've done that and you put your score on these spokes of the wheel, it's instant light being shined on where that wheel runs flat. So when you're growing, and we've talked about this before, there's always going to be this sense of being out of balance, because certain things need their due time, so you can give it enough focus that it has an opportunity to thrive and grow, but not so much that it pulls away from other areas of your life where you don't want to develop something while neglecting something else. And what I've realized in my personal journey is that when I've focused a lot on the business, that's when my family life would take the hit. My marriage would take the hit. My kids would be missing out on me because I was working so late. It's just always been this constant tug of war. You get pulled in one direction versus the other. And the struggle is to not let it get too far. We don't want to go so far out of focus that we lose everything that we were working for. So if I build a business to provide for my family, but I lost my family in pursuit of it, at the end of the day, you lose.
Well, I love the idea of a flat tire.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is, on your vehicle, when your tire isn't at the optimum PSI. Okay, your gas mileage isn't as good. You're probably not getting the handling that you want to. The wear and tear on the tire starts to be magnified, and it still works, but it only works for a little bit. And
Right.
there are times with your business, I would be willing to bet that there are times in your business that you do have to work longer days. Sometimes it's dictated by the weather, right? I've got this job, but I know it's supposed to storm the next couple of days, so I'm not going to have the opportunity to do this. So I'm going to invest more in the business today, and I'm going to make up for these other pieces tomorrow. But it's the people that are consistently feeding one part of that wheel that causes it to go out of balance. And
Right.
that's where it really becomes harmful, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. That's been the biggest reason why I've enjoyed using that as a tool. Because there are so many things that I've learned through this journey, because I've seen other small business owners that I've met personally that are working really hard on their business, and then years down the road they're getting divorces because they've just completely neglected the family life. So having something like that you do this evaluation, you can do it quarterly or you do it every 6 months. It's just a great way of like creating some checks and balances. Say, you can have sustainable growth without neglecting, one area of your life too far one direction or the other.
Well, they often make fun of people and have memes about those guys that go to the gym, but all they focus on are arms and chests.
Yeah.
And they never have legs. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you got the little chicken legs out there, and so the problem with that is that you look strong, you look healthy, but you have no foundation, you have no base. It's just one of those things. Life is about balance, and it's never going to be in perfect balance. And I just wrote down here, there are so many people out there that will take an assessment like we're talking about, but they do it once and they think that's enough for it to put them on the right track. But it's not about getting on the right track. It's about staying on the right track. And that's why you do this regular reassessment to make sure that you're not running on a flat, right?
Right. Yeah. I think it's our jobs as leaders to constantly have an awareness of where we're putting our time, focus, and energy.
And so I often tell my kids that everything comes at a cost in life. Everything does. Sometimes it costs you money. Sometimes it costs you time. You constantly have to evaluate, is where I'm investing, and I consider it an investment. Where am I investing my time? Where am I investing my money? Where am I investing my emotions? But because if those things get out of kilter and I let it go for too long, it's very difficult to bring it back many times. So when you start this leadership journey, you initially start it because you want to provide for your family. But then you said that, I realized that, I've got something to offer other people so that they don't have to suffer. So I'm going to ask you this, and I mean this sincerely. Why would you help other businesses? It seems like in a society today, we view everybody who's not us as a competitor. But here you are, you're going out of your way to say, hey, I'm here to help you. Why would you do that, man?
So one of my favorite sayings is that, competition happens at the bottom, but collaboration happens at the top. So, and that's been a big thing for me. One of my favorite books is Being a Go-Giver. So the Go-Giver series, if anybody's not read it, I highly recommend the series. But becoming a go-giver is somebody that, that does those things. They go out of their way to help the people around them, because you get what you expect. And if you can approach somebody with the expectation that I'm going to give in to them, and I know that doing that, I'm not trying to get some short-term gain. I'm just trying to pour into people, and I know that that's going to have a long-term lasting effect. There's so much opportunity out there that it's almost naive to even think that one company could come in and get all the work. There's plenty for all, and for everyone out there. For me, I think, again, just it serves my purpose of wanting to help others to be able to find people to say, hey, this is an area that I've been working on and I've developed, and I think I can help you.
Well, it's just, yeah, no, so let me take that just a little step further, because you're not doing it because you expect something in return. But the truth of the matter is that is often a byproduct of it. And I love how it's written in the introduction right there. It's about helping these other businesses that are in the same area that you are, because if they're healthier, then your community is going to be healthier. And if your
Right.
community's healthier, things are better for your family. And I'm not just talking about finances. Yeah, I'm talking about that sense of community that is often lacking today. And I just love the idea of helping other people because it's the right thing to do, expecting nothing in return, but ultimately we do get something in return.
Yeah, and that's one of the key principles with the Go Giver. So they talk about, the 5 laws of stratospheric success. And the last law in that is giving is the beginning of the receiving process. So we're not giving in order to receive, but the receiving is inevitable. It's going to happen. And the way that they sum it up is to say, if you just exhaled all the time, but never inhaled, like, it's not possible.
Right.
There's no way, so, right. It's like, you cannot disrupt somebody's opportunity to give back, because if you do, you kind of break the code. You're denying somebody the opportunity to pour in you when you've poured back into them.
Anybody who's ever been to a buffet, right? They understand the feeling that all you do is take, all you do is end up feeling miserable. Again, it's not for personal gain or personal recognition, but those things are inevitable. I would be willing to bet, and we haven't talked about this, but I would be willing to bet that there is a feeling of satisfaction with what you see happening in other people that you had a part in. And you didn't do it for that reason. But again, it's inevitable that type of thing. And being able to celebrate somebody else's success, I think, is a sign of maturity as a leader. That's what it's about, is helping others. And so when you get to see something like that happen, doesn't it just make you want it more? Because it's addictive, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I heard somebody say one time that the most selfish thing you can do is to care for somebody else, because of the good feeling and the sense of return and everything that you get, that sense of fulfillment. It is. So you could say, that you are taking care of others because of the good feelings and the dopamine and everything that comes from the, being able to contribute to somebody else's life.
Now, you and I are realists as well, aren't we? Mm-hmm. And so one of the things is, again, everything comes with a cost. It's important to recognize you pay a cost to invest in others. And maybe it's time away from your business or a little bit time away from your family. That's, again, you count the cost and you recognize that this is a worthwhile investment that's going to be paying dividends for my community, for that business, for me over a period of time. And that's the way the leader has to look at it. Simon Sinek, the infinite game, looking long term. And we become so short-sighted, but I think leaders have the ability to see the future much better than maybe others do.
Right. Yeah. And I love that you mentioned the infinite game. Another great one, finite players and infinite players. And just being at that presentation that we did yesterday, one of the men in the crowd sat there and kind of gave me a little nudge and said, "So who's your biggest competitor here?" And I just kind of gave him this dumbfounded look, because I never think about it. I'm too busy playing my own game and serving my purpose and trying to grow the people, in my charge, and find ways to just continue to build this business that I'm creating so that we can continue to serve, our clients, our team members, and our families, that I'm not really competing with anybody. Now, I'm aware of who's out there, but I'm not in direct competition with anybody. I'm playing my own game and just producing my own results.
So what I'm hearing is you're not running any political ads, throwing mud at the people that maybe have a power washer themselves. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, as a matter of fact, if they're a power washer, they're probably I've got their contact stored in my cell phone.
It's one of those things, and you look at the Amish community. And I always love and I don't love hearing that people suffered some type of hardship, but if somebody's barn is destroyed by fire or something like that, it's not, they don't see it as an opportunity. Well, my crops are going to be worth more. Instead, what happens, the community comes together and everybody contributes to building that, because like you said, we're foolish if we think that we're going to have a monopoly on what's going on in just about any region. When you're willing to invest in others, people become willing to invest in you, and that's going to help me grow, and that makes everything better, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah, and pouring into people, it's amazing how that comes full circle too, because especially as a small business owner, when you're growing, sometimes you get opportunities for jobs that might be, outside of your capability. And if you've networked properly and you've built relationships with these other people that are even in your same industry, they're just a phone call away to say, hey, I got a big project. Can you come help me out? And they're more than willing to come and help out. Or if your equipment goes down, you hop on the phone, you got, 7, 8, 10 guys that you can call real quick, and they're all willing to just drop what they're doing at the drop of a dime and run over there and help you out.
I would love to see the look on some client's face, when you're on a job and one of your quote unquote competitors rolls up and they get out and start helping you, the ex-husband and the new husband, working on something that, you know what I mean? Because it's just out of the norm, but it's just a different way of thinking. And so I got to ask you this, how was this journey? How was this deep dive into leadership? How has it impacted the people that work in your company? You're bringing people in and you're taking on responsibility for their financial well-being, but you said, hey, me providing for their financial well-being isn't enough. I want to invest in them personally. How has that worked out for you?
It's just been absolutely incredible. Again, it's part of the giving and receiving, because I pour into them so much. Just the willingness that they have to want to, do more than, maybe what their job requires them to do, and just go above and beyond to help kind of, take this boulder and push it up the hill with me. The feedback and the support that I've gotten from them has just been absolutely incredible. The opportunities that I have to pour into them, by using something like the Ziglar Wheel of Life, we actually use that for performance-based bonuses.
Wow.
We're going to pay you for your own personal development. If you want to start this path of self-education and you want to say you want to work on something as far as like developing your leadership skills, well, we'll recommend a book to you, and then I'm going to read it, my assistant's going to read it, and we're all going to grow together. So we all have this camaraderie of we're all working to develop ourselves and make ourselves better, because we know by taking care of ourselves, if we can improve ourselves, we can improve the relationships that we have with our family, with our kids, with our spouses. And if that side of your personal life is taken care of, then whenever you come to work, you can really pour into this. And then whenever you get out there with your clients, you can pour into your clients and you can pour into your community. So we know that by developing ourselves, it just has this magnifying effect. So it's been absolutely rewarding.
I love how you use the pour into others. And I think it's important to note that you can't pour from an empty glass.
Right.
And that's what self-development affords you. It's not selfish. It's self-development so I can pour into others. And so I think a lot of people take that the wrong way. It's not selfish. In fact, it makes everybody better when I do that.
Right. So that was one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot here lately, is that, how did entrepreneurship lead me into leadership? And it was because of the personal growth that's come with it and how much I've wanted to help others. It's hard to lead from the back of the pack. Mm-hmm. So if I want to kind of reach back and pull people up with me, then there are certain things that I've got to kind of go out ahead and, acquire myself. So if I want somebody to develop their ability to communicate, then I need to work on that myself. If I want somebody to be financially literate, then I need to work on my own financial literacy. If I want somebody to be stronger in their marriage, I need to be working on my marriage. So the leadership stemmed from that personal growth journey of, if I want to teach others, I can't pour from an empty cup. If I haven't learned those lessons yet, then I have no grounds to stand on to help support somebody else.
I wrote an article a few months ago for the Michigan Chiefs magazine, and it talked about the learning organization. and it talked about cultivating a culture of learning inside of our organizations. But the truth of the matter is, we're probably never going to have a learning organization if I don't have learning leadership.
Right.
If the people up there, it's like being a parent. What I want from my kids, I need to model. I need to be willing to invest in. And so I'm going to step out on a limb here, man, and I'm going to make a statement. I don't know if you're going to agree with it or not, but that's just the way we're going to roll. I would be willing to bet that as your people mature and they grow, at some point, one of them might decide that their passion, their pathway takes them away from you. And as much as you don't want your people to go, be willing to bet that you're not willing to try to hold them back either.
My hope is for that to happen, actually.
Wow, that's great.
My hope is for people to come in and us to be able to pour into them and them to develop and grow and be able to turn around and just produce something for themselves. I love the people that come in to work with us, and I would hate to lose any of them, but I also would hate for anybody to become stagnant, complacent, become comfortable and stop growing, stop learning, stop trying. It's one of our core values to never stop growing.
Yeah, unfulfilled potential, I think, is one of the most tragic things that's out there. You know, with my kids, I never said I expect you to get straight A's. What I expect you to do is to do your best, to put the work in, and what that is what that is. But where I do become disappointed is when you're unwilling to put forth the work. And so if your people are willing to do that and invest in themselves, pour into themselves, and they pour into your business for a while and they pour into you, well, eventually maybe their cup's just too big. And so they need to find a way to do that. And I think leaders that are willing to allow their people to grow beyond them are truly the most effective ones.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a personal question, brother. Would you say that this leadership journey that you have taken, has it made you a better husband? Has it made you a better father? If it has, have they noticed that you're a better dad and a better father?
They have, and I'll tell you, it's a rewriting of who you are. And I'll say the conversations that I've had with my wife about it, because you know we've hit that wall many times where the focus has been too much on the business or too much on developing others. We've hit that wall a lot of times, which is why, you know, being aware and reflecting and using something like that tool to say, you know, hey, maybe I'm straying a little bit too hard. It has been hugely beneficial for us, but this personal growth journey, you know, leading us to a place of being like really reflective and, you know, trying to problem solve and come up with better solutions has opened up a lot of dialogue with my wife that just wasn't there before. One of the things that I realized for me early on is that, you know, I was a toxic people pleaser. And I realized that was a very self-serving thing. I was doing it because I wanted everyone to like me. Mm-hmm. That was actually something that was really challenging for us because, you know, being such a people pleaser like that, whenever I would have conversations with my wife and she'd start getting upset, I would just go quiet. You know, I could not voice my own personal feelings and opinions about certain topics or situations. And I realized the cowardness that kind of was associated with, you know, being a people pleaser. Not to say that now I'm all excited if I can argue back or put her in her place. Like, that's not the point. But it's the personal development that came with it to say, you know, hey, I am strong enough now to have conversations with you so that way we can actually resolve, you know, these long-term things and these issues that we've had in the past.
Well, I'm not advocating for arguing and that type thing, but there's a lot of stuff out there that shows that constructive conflict. Mm-hmm. And when I'm talking about conflict, I'm not talking about beating on each other for my listeners. All right. I'm talking about that willingness to acknowledge that there's a disagreement, that the focuses are not aligned, but then being able to talk about it is incredibly beneficial and actually makes the relationship stronger. And we need that as leaders too. We need somebody. I mean, how much better would it be if one of your people came and said, hey, boss, I think you're working too much, man. I think that wheel's going a little bit flat over there, brother.
Yeah.
To help you with that. And it stings a little bit until I recognize that they're trying to pour into you.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because it has happened. You know, Becky, my assistant, absolutely amazing. Her sole purpose is to prioritize, is to protect my time slots. And she'll even tell me, hey boss man, you got to be out of here by 2:00. It's Wednesday. You got to be out by 2:00 so you can be home, so your wife gets a break. She stays at home with kids all day. This is something that you decided that you were going to do to prioritize. So, hey, you got to roll.
As we're wrapping things up, I love that thing right there, because she pours into you so that you can pour into your family. Mm-hmm. And so she's acting as a leader so that you can lead properly. And it makes the organization, and in this case, it makes the family that much stronger.
Right.
So Kelton, we're at the point of the program where I share with you what I think the biggest takeaways were, and you get the chance to argue with me if I'm wrong. All right. I love what you said when you said you don't know what you don't know. I don't know what's out there. And I think it's important to know for our listeners that, you were fortunate that you latched on to pressure washing pretty quickly. The next thing I want to add to is kind of a sub thing, is that passion doesn't mean reckless, because right. When you latched onto this, you didn't just go into it blindly. You did the research and everything, and it became your passion, but it became a viable passion. Would that be an accurate statement there?
Absolutely.
I think that there's a book out there called Quit by Annie Duke. It's not the antithesis of grit, but she just talks about that there are times in life where the appropriate thing to do is to stop and stop doing something because it's not effective or whatever. And so I loved how you did that. I wrote this down too. Failure often helps to provide clarity.
Right.
A leader has to be willing to fail, but a leader also has to be willing to allow their people to fail sometimes.
Right.
Let's see what we got here. Oh, like this one too. You got to be hungry. You got to be hungry. This stuff doesn't happen by accident. It happens with intentionality, and the leader is hungry and they're willing to pay that cost. I wrote this down. You didn't say it. I just kind of paraphrased for you, brother. Leadership is about love. It's about love for others and wanting to invest in them. I'm not talking about romantic love. I'm talking about the love that's best represented, in my opinion, by the love a parent has for their kids. It sounds like that's the type of love that you have for the people that are part of your organization.
One of my favorite quotes from Jim Rohn is to work harder on yourself than you do on the job. And that's the philosophy that I use for all of the people that come through that door, is I want them to work harder on themselves than I do on this job. And that's what we preach, and that's what we coach, and that's why we try to provide these tools and resources for them.
Man, it's so funny you said that, because the last thing I have written down right here, leadership requires a deep understanding of you. It's very difficult to be improving oneself isn't selfish unless it's done for your benefit. I'm improving myself so that I can serve others, so that I can pour into them. And that to me is the essence of leadership, whether at home, whether at work, whether in your church group, whatever it is, that's the essence of leadership there. Kelton, man, it has been such a pleasure. And I haven't offered this. I don't know if I've offered this on air to anybody, but I would love to bring you back and do some more talking about this, because I love the idea of a leadership journey. And so we're going to do, it's going to be in our episode notes, but I would also want to put it out there on the air for our listeners. If our folks are down in the Brunswick area and they're looking for a power washer, a passionate power washer, where's the best place for them to find information about you and your company, man?
Yeah, so they can hit us up on Google, check out our 200 plus 5-star reviews there, or they can go to our website at underpressurega.com.
And folks, having met this guy in person and having this conversation with him, I'm telling you, it would be worth your time to bring him out there for the power washing. Have him stick around a little bit for the conversation. I think you're going to learn something. I think you'll be a better person as a result of it, man. Thanks for being with us today, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike.
And for our listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. Folks, if you didn't enjoy this episode, you're probably tuned into the wrong podcast, because this one was fantastic. Just going to throw it out there. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you follow the podcast on your favorite podcast provider. You can find the podcast also on YouTube. Go over there, folks, and click the subscribe button so you get notified when something new drops. You can also find this and all our previous episodes on our website at commandpresence.net/podcast. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn. We try to put extra stuff out there, folks, that's leadership related, because we want to invest in you. We believe that leadership is one of those things that we can say works, and when it's done well, it works every time. So be sure to follow us on there. And as you go throughout the rest of this week, folks, please remember, be the leader you wish you had.